G'day and welcome to the Make It With Myles podcast, where we talk about all things related to building and construction, as well as the real estate industry through the lens of a building inspector. There's a couple of formats to the podcast. We've got the shed. Obviously, we talk about things related to building construction. Then there's the journey. The journey is more of a personal development thing, which is sort of dabbling every now and then, because we're here to make it, here to be better, act better, get society better, get things back on track, because it's all a bit shit at the moment. So we want to, improve some things. On this episode, we'll be discussing the 2025 Building Reform Victoria sort of changes that have come through Parliament recently, which are going to make a humongous impact on the Victorian building industry. Some good things, I reckon, some bad things. What I'm going to do is just sort of punch through sort of item by item, and then the back end just sort of have a bit of a chinwag, sort of my thoughts around what's going on and how it's going to make a change, impact the industry, and I think it's simple solutions. So to begin, item one, the Victorian Building Authority, VBA, it will be scrapped and replaced by a new Building and Plumbing Commission, the BPC. It'll be replaced by a single powerful commission that handles licensing, insurances, and dispute resolution. So the goal is there's going to be one agency to deal with everything, and there's going to be no more sort of bouncing around all the other agencies, okay? So you've got the VMIA, which resolves the domestic builders insurance. Then you've got the VBA, which is the Victorian Building Authority. Then you've got the DBDRV, Domestic Builders Dispute Resolution Victoria, which is the dispute resolution board for construction issues. And then after that, you've got VCAT, which is obviously just the consumer, a consumer tribunal. So it's all going to be now in one big old location, which I don't see that as being too much of an issue. I thought everyone else beforehand could have these powers to resolve disputes, but I guess they can't. Anyway, item two is the rectification orders. Okay, so this one's a really, really big one because it really gives a lot of power to the Building Authority, the Building and Plumbing Commission, for a fucking lot of things. So listen in. Builders can now be ordered to fix serious defects for up to 10 years after handover, even if the home's already been lived in. As well as that, they can get rectification orders during the construction of the build as well. So even if the defect is a design fault or material fault, it will be the builder who needs to fix it ASAP to keep their license active and still turn a profit to survive. Then they go legal on the consultants. Okay, so either way, the order is issued, it has to be actioned, and no matter who's at fault, it could be anyone, but it's the builder's problem now. So next thing is, can you dispute the rectification order? Well, of course you can. So if a builder wants to challenge the rectification order, they first need permission from the new regulator, which is the Building and Plumbing Commission, the BPC, before they can take it to VCAT. So they have to go through the authorities at hand, the rectification order individuals, the BPC, get approval, and then they can go to VCAT. So as long as they get past them, that's, I guess, where it can occur. Even if the builder is disputing it, they still have to follow the order in the meantime. That means fixing the issues first, even if they believe it's unfair. So whatever the issue may be, they still need to follow that order that has been put forward to them, no matter what. If they don't comply, the homeowner can go straight to the insurance scheme and make a claim against that builder. And if the homeowner has already made a claim, the builder also needs permission from the BPC to respond or dispute it. So there's going to be a lot of clients just making claims and really pushing hard on this. And I'll be very interested to see how these rectification orders sort of play out, but we'll get further into it. So I was going through the HIA's reference material based around this and just pulled out one of their case studies. So thanks, crew. Case study. So Glen Home Improvements has issued a rectification order by the BPC, has been issued a rectification order by the BPC to rectify a range of issues, including, for example, water ingress due to overflowing gutters and deterioration of a garage door. Glen disagrees with the rectification order, argues that the homeowner has failed to maintain their property. Glen is refusing to comply with the rectification order. Under the bill, the homeowner is entitled to make a claim under the statutory building insurance scheme, while Glen can challenge the rectification order in VCAT. This does not prevent the insurance claim progressing or relieve Glen of his obligations to comply with the rectification orders. It is expected that in these cases, a homeowner will succeed in their insurance claim and the works will be rectified. The BPC will then pursue Glen to recoup those costs. It is unclear from the bill the outcome. If Glen's application to VCAT is successful, noting an insurance claim has already been paid, if Glen's application to VCAT is unsuccessful, the impact on his registration, giving the non-compliance with a rectification order. So this is going to be where there's going to be a lot of issues I see coming up in the space, understanding to what extent is a serious breach of somebody losing their license completely or making a claim, because you can have a disgruntled client that's just going to make a claim over the most ridiculous shit, which happens all the time, and this poor builder is going to go through all this bullshit for someone that didn't maintain and clean their gutters, or it might just be a minor general movement of the home. This is where we've got to get real clear on these types of things. I think it's going to be fucking huge. But when there's a legitimate builders who are dodgy as shit, this is absolutely necessary and can fucking put them in their place for people that are avoiding the calls, doesn't want to deal with the issues at hand, and this sort of leaves or abandons the actual client completely. So I do see the positive and the negatives. It's just going to depend on the individuals, and I believe the way in which they go about really classifying what these defects are going to be. The non-compliance, is it we're going to work on like tolerances and standards? Is it cosmetic things? Like, it's going to be very interesting. Next one is the first resort building insurance scheme. So currently there is a last resort building scheme, which is the domestic builders insurance. DBI insurance is a cost that just goes directly to the client. It is very expensive. I priced up 6 units and it was nearly $95,000 just in insurance. So for one, you might be looking at between 20 grand, to say $15,000. So if you get a house built, $15,000 of your money goes to the insurance scheme in case the builder dies, does the runner, or becomes insolvent. Okay, so all people in the industry understand this is a bit of a wank to a degree, and when a claim is put forth, say the builder does go into liquidation for whatever reason, the money that's always left is never enough usually to finish the job. It's chaos, and this is what's happened with the Porter Davis shit that's gone through. So I can see what their point is here. Now, the first resort is it's a game changer. Homeowners won't need to wait for more or less. They won't have to wait for the builders to go bust. So from 2026, a homeowner can make a claim when there is defective building work, incomplete building work, or non-compliant building work. Okay, this can start from start of construction till 10 years until it's completed. What is defective building work? Breach or statutory warranty as set out in Section 8 of the Domestic Builders Contract Act, or failure to maintain a standard of quality of building work specified in the domestic building contract. Basically, it's a very broad and captures things like workmanship. So that's probably the key issue here, is getting an understanding of what's going to be defective and what's technically defective, but how far do you absolutely destroy a builder's career and license and company over some of the most useless, dumbest shit. All right, I'm interested to see where that goes. What is incomplete building work? Well, it's obviously works has not been completed during the contract period, basically. So maybe the builder does the hold halt and doesn't finish the job. Fair enough. What is non-compliant building work? That is work that contravenes acts, regs, building permits, and any binding determination that applies in relation to that work. So obviously, non-compliant building work is anything associated with that build that's non-compliant, goes against acts and regs, standards, all those types of things. That's where it falls into it. Now, how a claim will work. So a client can put in a claim from the start of the project until 10 years after the house is complete. The BPC sends an inspector or an expert to assess the site and determine the outcome if it's not compliant, defective, or incomplete. If the builder refuses or fails to comply and it's still under construction, the commission can terminate their involvement and activates the insurance for that property. So I would assume that would occur on a balance of probabilities if the builder just completely abandons the project, which is good because that can help really push that process and make it go a bit quicker for the client. Because there's houses sitting around for years now that they just can't get the money or find the right builder to continue that build, and they've just been shafted, which sucks. The issues is what will be the line in the sand for their to make the call from, I believe. So my perspective is there's going to be a lot of clients that come through that are going to make a lot of complaints in regards to some of defective work, and it's going to come down to their expectations of what they want. Obviously, there's product installation guides and the way in which the tolerances work for that. We've got the Guide for Standards and Tolerances, which is a guide to work and best practice of what's acceptable and what's not. Some of that does pull specifically from the Australian standards of each somewhat industry. So concrete being out of level and floors being out of plumb and trusses not being installed correctly, all those types of things. But I'm interested to know to the extent as to what they'll push for. Like, for example, if I was to say I build a house and 9 years later I get a claim put against me because one of the internal walls was built 10 mil out of plumb. All right. So let's say it's not a load-bearing wall. It's obviously it's definitely non-compliant. It doesn't meet the standard. Now, what would occur in that situation? Would I be forced to go back, strip, and maybe it's a bathroom wall, strip the whole bathroom back, plumb the wall up, redo the whole thing, which is going to be probably a 10, 15 grand exercise because it's practically a fucking bathroom reno. Will that be acceptable? Or is that an acceptable claim? Will the authorities have the power to just tell the consumer who they're trying to protect and spend most of their, that's where all the powers are going. Are they going to be having a conversation with them saying, nah, you can just fucking deal with it? Would it be the same for like a brick sill? The brick sill doesn't have enough fall on it. It doesn't sit up correctly. Or there's a bit of shrinkage and there's a couple of cracks that are occurring. And trying to get clear on exactly what's going to be claimable and what's not claimable, which is probably a very important aspect of a lot of things. This even goes for like the pre-purchase inspection industry as well as these new home inspection industries in regards to what's major defects, what's defective, what's not, and just trying to get some clarity on what these expectations will be. So that's probably my biggest concern. You know, I would hate for something to happen, or even if something is designed incorrectly. This is another thing that pisses me off. If something's designed incorrectly, let's say there's a footing issue, or there's been no drainage designed for the property. This is probably another big one, aggie drains, let's say. And the property itself is been built as per the plan. The builder's done everything he's expected to do. The plumber's done everything he's expected to do. And then 10 years down the road, all of a sudden you've got some footing movement because there's been excessive rain. Maybe there's no aggies in place. There's sort of pooling water. There's footings that have subsided. What standard are we working to? Like the footings have subsided. Now, is the slab's technically out of level from the standard when it was built? But there is no sort of understanding as to what is acceptable movement, what's unacceptable movement. You know, I do inspect these houses. I inspect houses that are 10 years old. Some clearly have complete failure of the footing system, but then some of them it's just minor movement. You know, I've made note of it, saying, right, there's been structural movement here. Get an engineer out. Engineer comes out, they assess it, like, yeah, it's fucking sweet. Underpinners come out, they're like, nah, it's not more than, you know, it's 20 mil, that's okay, and everything's fine. So, you know, there needs to be we need to know where we're all going to stand with this, or it's going to cause a lot of dramas. And, you know, what I'm seeing in the industry is people's expectations with houses is you buy a house, you live in the house, the fucking house is meant to be absolutely perfect all the time and there's nothing you got to do with it. And then happy days. But it's wrong. You got to look after your things. Anyway, item 4, let's get back into it. So 2% developer bond for apartment projects. For buildings over 3 stories, developers must lodge a bond worth 2% of construction costs. Oh, Jesus. If defects show up and the developer doesn't fix them, the bond is used to pay for repairs. All right, I kind of like that. I don't mind that at all. 2% is going to be a fucking big number though, but I'll see how we go from that. All right, next one is proposed more mandatory inspections. Now, I do fucking like this one. There's a couple of things that I do like, and I think this is going to solve a lot of problems. So 2 extra inspections are being proposed, one before waterproofing and one before plastering. That would apply to all residential builds, including standalone homes. The aim is to catch major issues early. Love it. Love that idea. Going to come back to it. So old mate Jacinta Allen's got a couple of quotes that she's sort of had a bit of a chinwag about in regards to what has been passed through Parliament. Building or buying a new home will be the biggest investment most of us ever make, and Victorians rightly expect to get what they pay for. You're fucking bang on, Jacinta, 100%. This is all about more homes. We will build and sell more apartments and townhouses if buyers know they are rock solid and will stand the test of time. I think that is complete bullshit. I don't actually think we're going to sell more houses all of a sudden because the quality is going to get a little bit better, or it's going to meet the minimum standard, really. This is going to increase costs of construction, I believe. The insurances themselves have already gone fucking through the roof. I feel like 15 grand for a fucking normal house as it is now. So I'm interested to know how high that's going to get. And then the risk. So builders are going to add more risks into their costings to have these allowances, because like builders have to rely on other trades. So a builder isn't a registered electrician that knows everything about electrical components, regulations, what can be done, what can't be done. They don't know everything about plumbing, in-grounds, what can be done, what can't be done, how it's meant to be installed. They don't know everything about roof plumbing and how it's meant to be done. We rely on our subcontractors to actually fucking help us with this sort of shit. So there's going to be risks added to it. There's going to be costs. It's going to build the costs. I fucking guarantee it. And I think as well as that, I think we're going to really find that there'll be some good builders that aren't interested in being a part of this industry anymore and just do the Harold Holt. So you're going to be another builder down. And these will be good builders. These will be just sole operators that not interested in paying excessive premiums just to operate a business, and I think we'll lose them. I think we'll definitely lose the dodgy builders as well. I reckon that's going to be great. I'm all about that as well, but there's going to be a smaller pool of builders, which is going to be a great opportunity for people coming through, which I must admit. But it's just risks associated with it, and and ensuring you're doing the right thing, which is what we want. So it's just this balance between the two. But do I think that quality builds is going to get more people building and buying properties, I don't think that at all. I think it's a cost of living crisis issue. Like, that's the government taxing us fucking, probably 4 months of the year we work for free because we're getting taxed on all this shit, and now we've got insurance. It's just, no, it's a money issue. But that being said, interested to see how it all comes out. But overall, sort of my thoughts with this is the consumer protection is important. I really do believe that we need to look after the consumers and give them the powers, because I do come across so many stories of people that are calling me, can you inspect my house? I've got this issue with the builder and this sort of stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's sweet. And sometimes I'll just, go out there and have a look and just at least steer them in the right direction of where to go. And but yeah, there's a lot that are just trapped in this circle of problems, or they just go to VCAT, the builder just goes into liquidation, disappears, whatever it might happen. They're just the dodgy people out there, to be honest. So I do think it's really good in regards to protecting the consumer. One thing I do think, though, is bad clients will definitely kill building companies, 100%, guarantee. These will be the next stories you hear. It won't be the dodgy builders, it'll be the dodgy clients destroying building companies. It's already happening now in the industry, where some of these clients are just getting they're getting their private building inspectors, who are not they're not building surveyors or anything like that. They're coming out doing all these defect inspection reports, getting these massive hit lists of defects and stuff like that, and then they go into the builder feeling like they've been shafted, or getting the bump steer, and taking them to VCAT, wanting damages and claims and all that sort of stuff, and the builder just gets to a point where it's I may as well just pull the pin. I won't accept the final claim and just walk away. These things are really occurring, and a bad client can really just fucking make your life hard. And they will push hard, and they will be the ones that are pushing. And this is where in the middle, where the BPC is going to come into it, these experts and these inspectors that are going to determine what's non-compliant, compliant, all that sort of stuff. We need, as builders, as subcontractors, we need to be educated in regards to how they will go about this. Because you need to understand the tolerances that you are working within to ensure you can build accordingly. So, for example, if you're doing like a really high-end build, there's money in the budget, right? There's a shitload of money in the budget to make sure it's done to a fucking 0mm poofteenth, all right? Sometimes you have clients that can't afford top dollar, which is completely fair and reasonable. So they get a standard, which is a little bit lower, but you need to know as to when does that fall out of from a non-compliance perspective, and when it's going to be actioned, when are you going to be forced to rectify all these issues. It's going to be it's going to be very interesting. I think, me personally, I think the biggest thing that would make the biggest change, which I don't know why they fucking don't do it, is just hold more responsibility on the building surveyors themselves and the building inspectors that work under the surveyors. So the building surveyors do have powers. Like they can stop works for a builder. Like they have the power to do that already. What they should be doing, I believe, is with these private building inspectors, they're doing like 5 stages of construction. So they're doing all slab, frame, lock up, fix, pre-plaster, waterproofing, everything. What I think would be good is if the building surveyors get paid more, to be honest, because they just don't get paid enough to go out there and actually go out and complete more inspections at specific stages. I think that would be completely fair and reasonable. Get them to put a fucking plumb stick on the frame. So at frame stage, we need to know, is it going to be out of plumb? Because what usually occurs is they'll walk around the frame, got the cleats, like all the main things are in there, the tie down bolts, all the straps are in place, the bracing's completed correctly. They do all that sort of stuff, which is great. But when it comes to like the next layer of defects or non-compliance, or not within tolerances, that's the tasks that aren't really occurring. They're not putting plumb sticks on the wall to see how plumb it is. They're not straightening, pre-plaster, seeing how straight the walls are. None of that's occurring. Now, obviously we just want the builders to do all the right things, but it just doesn't happen. But if you can have another step in the building process that can fucking stop a builder on his tracks to fix their shit before they proceed, that will definitely help with the quality of build. And then, for example, in 9 years' time, when, let's say, a wall's out of plumb, or let's say there's a waterproofing issue, or there's some sort of leak or some sort of concern, at least you've got this fucking third-party independent record and reporting of the build at each specific stage. And there's, it's a full report. You've got video, photo evidence, all those types of things. So it's like, all right, well, this is what it was at the time. This is what it is now. Maybe it is a maintenance issue, or maybe because it wasn't effective at the time here, but now there's issues occurring over here. Okay, because trying to find issues 9 years down the road is a fucking pain in the ass, and especially water issues. Like, you can't determine it's a waterproofing issue because, things can settle and move. The waterproofing can crack a little bit. It can deteriorate. Maybe something was done a little bit wrong. Well, it's so hard. And you can't just peel a tile off and just see the waterproofing's been torn away because that's what the glue does, So, it's fucking going to be a bit of a difficult one, to be honest. The combination of all the authorities into one, I don't mind that, to be honest. I don't have really any qualms with that. If it makes it easier and they can fucking do their job better and they're not handballing to each other, which is what I hear often, then I would prefer that, to be honest. 10-year post-completion rectification orders terrifies me. Builders are already shitting themselves and things go wrong and then without even their intent. And I'll be interested to see what happens here. And I've had this happen on back in the day when I was an apprentice. We did this house and did all the footings, and that was during sort of the drought back in the 2000s. And we finished the job, and then we got called back. It was a year later, I think it was, and the house had lifted. So one section, the biggest footing that we had lifted. And it had the biggest light. It was fucking all the weight was on it, and it had lifted about 30 millimeters. And it was just because the water, the soil swelled back up. It was the biggest footing, so it was a 700 rather than the 450s in the stumps. It was on the external corner, so it was copping all the water as well, and it popped up and lifted that whole side of the house 30 millimeters, which is ridiculous. Now, we did everything right. We did everything as we should have, but if that wasn't on stumps and it was maybe a concrete slab and had a big footing down there, and that lifted 30 mil, well, there's not much you can do about that. You can't do anything with the heave. So, you can do everything right and have the best intentions and have the best relationship with your client, but things can still go wrong without you doing anything. And if you are forced to fix the problem, no matter what, even if it wasn't your problem to begin with, then you might be spending 10 grand to fix a problem and then chasing someone else 10 grand to pay for the thing that wasn't your problem. So that's why these builders are going to just do the whole. They're just going to be like, fuck that, I'm not risking this shit. And they'll just do something else. So it'd be interesting to see how it all sort of pans out, to be honest. Again, interested to know what a defect's going to be after 9 years. Like grouting, cracks and grouting, some general movement. We don't even have these answers now as to what is acceptable and what's not. So that will be interesting. Builders forced to fix issues even in dispute, and it's not their fault. That's the fucking killer. So yeah, you can't be just forcing someone to do something. If it's clearly their fault, give them hell. That's fine. No dramas. But when you're going down a path of multiple options and no one can understand specifically how all these things are occurring, that's going to be a difficult one. I think as well as registering trades would be fucking helpful as well. So there's at least a register of trades that have undertaken the works associated with that job. So if there's any issues associated with, say, the roof plumbing, rather than the builder copying it, it can be a combination of the builder and the roof plumber. You know what I mean? The builder can't take responsibility for absolutely every aspect of the build because they don't physically do the work all the time. They manage it. We manage the things. So like waterproofing is another great example, right? We don't do the waterproofing, we pay the waterproofer, okay? We pay these specialist trades to do the task at hand because we don't know exactly how to do everything. So if there is a fault or an issue, I think if there was registered trades, and obviously sparkies and plumbers are already, registered, but I'm talking things like carpenters, steel fixers. Let's say that the steel installation gets put in place and then no one cleats it off correctly or does the bolts up. Who's at fault? Is the builder's job to go around, check every single bolt that was done on that job? Or is it the responsibility of the subcontractor to do their fucking job? And that goes for, is there enough nails that have been put into the bracing or the tie downs? Or have they drilled the tie down bolts deep enough? Like the builder can't see that sort of shit. You know what I mean? So there needs to be some responsibility put on the trades. If you're a qualified trade and you're charging to do your services, well, you should be doing it as a bare minimum, meeting the standard of what you do. So we'll see how that turns out. But outside of that, first resort insurance, I think it's going to increase the cost of building most definitely, but I do see the point of it. I kind of don't mind it as long as we get clear on with these rectification orders what's claimable, what's not claimable, what's defective, what's not defective, and then getting so there's no grey area. I think that'll benefit the industry heaps, to be honest. But these are the things coming through now, and as this sort of goes through the process and they start building out the new BPC and we start learning about what's happening within the industry, I'll keep you updated throughout the process. But big news for Victoria, and if this affects you in any way whatsoever, send it, share it off to your mates, share it to your builder mates, especially in Victoria. If you're looking at becoming a builder, this is what you're in for. So when you speak to the old time builders and they talk about their, the DBI insurance and stuff like that, you'll understand more that this is going to really make a massive impact. So be mindful about it. Learn as much as you can. Be diligent. Do your best. Crack on. See you on the next one. Who bloody roo.